Hey, this is Gizamir. I got a 2,500 point pitch battle. My Orcs and Goblins versus Ogres. Starting my opponent's right, he has a Meow Meow Kitty, 2 Mornfang Cavalry. He has a block of 9 Bulls with a level 4 Slaughtermaster in there, with an Iron Fist, Sword of Might, and a Dispel Scroll. For spells, he rolled up Bull Gorgia, Brain Goblin, Spine Marrow, and Troll Guts. To the left of that unit, he has 4 Lead Belchers. In the center, he has 14 Iron Guts, the unit I've come to know and love all so well. He has his Ogre Tyrant in there with Armor of Fortune. That's a 5-up ward and heavy armor. He's got an Ogre Blade for +2 strength and an Iron Fist. Also in that unit, he has a Bruiser BSB with Armor of Silver Steel, a great weapon, and a Luck Stone. To the left of that, he's got a Meow Meow Kitty and then another Meow Meow Kitty. And rounding out his forces on the far left, he has 4 more Lead Belchers. Starting on my right, on top of that hut there, I have a Doom Diver. Then to the left of that, I have an Orc Boar Chariot. To the left of that, there is a Mangler Squig. To the left of that, we have 5 Goblin Wolf Riders. Behind that is 40 Black Orcs. To the left of, actually in front of that, in that brown base, is Mr. John Walsh. He is a Goblin Hero riding a giant Cave Squig. He has Armor of Destiny. So he has a 4-up armor save, and he has a 4-up ward. He also has a great weapon, so he is strength 6 on top of that bad boy. In the center of my lines, front and center, I have 45 Orc Biggins, and they have the Razor Standard. In that unit is my Black Orc Warboss. My general, he has a Talisman of Preservation, Enchanted Shield, Sword of Striking, Crown of Command. So he's stubborn with a 3-up save and a 4-up ward, and he gets +1 to hit. He's just there mainly to help me with animosity and to make sure I stick around with the Crown of Command. Behind that unit, there's 20 Night Goblins, and in that unit is a Goblin BSB with light armor and a shield. He is just there for the reroll, not really there to do any fighting. He's just cheap as dirt. In the center of that unit, there's a level 1 with a Dispel Scroll, and he has Gift of the Spider God, so he's got poison attacks, or he can cast poison attacks onto a unit. I have a level 4 on the side there. He has an Earthing Rod. He has Hand of Gork, Foot of Gork, Brain Burster, and here we go. I wouldn't have it any other way. Now next to those Orc Big Guns, I have 6 Trolls. And to the left of that, there is a Mangler Squig next to the house there. Behind that is another Doom Diver. And rounding up my forces on the far left is 5 more Wolfies. Ogres get turn 1, and he moves up his Lead Belchers like so. His Meow Meow Kitties move up like so, a little far forward for my liking, but for his I think he overcommitted a bit here. I think he should have hung back and waited for my Mangler to move and then jump on top of it. But you know, it is what it is. He learned his lesson. His Iron Guts hop over the fence here and trekking forward full bore. His Lead Belchers move up like so. His Slaughtermaster's unit moves up, and his Mornfang moves up as well. And you see his Meow Meow Kitty here on the far right. He's threatening my Doom Diver Catapult. He's out of my charge arc of my Boar Chariot, so unfortunately I feel like I have to either shoot at it or lose my Doom Diver. In his shooting phase, he opens up with his Lead Belchers, and he puts 2 wounds on Mr. John Walsh. Thankfully, he's got an extra one because of the giant Cave Squig. But yeah, he did like 17 shots there, and he did like 4 or 5 wounds, and I managed to fail 2 of my 6-up armors with his armor piercing there, and I failed my wards. So yeah, took 2 wounds on Mr. John Walsh, looking pretty grim for him right off the bat. My turn 1, I take my Wolf Riders, and since I want no part of anything to do with Lead Belchers, I move them up. I took my Trolls and I charged his Meow Meow Kitty. I charged the one on the far left, so when I closed the door, I dragged his other one into combat. So I got both of them in one charge. You can see my Mangler Squig went up to get right into the Iron Guts face, so he'll either have to step on him and take 3d6, or he's going to let me go through him, and I'm going to go through his Lead Belchers or whatever else I can too. I don't really care about those Wolf Riders, so yeah. And my Wolf Riders on the far left, I did put them so that if I did have to overrun or I did have to pursue or try and get rid of those Meow Meow Kitties, that I would stop 1 inch away from my own unit there. I mean, the Wolf Riders there weren't going to do anything else, so. You can see in the middle, I took my Wolf Riders on the far right there, and I plopped them right in front of his Iron Gut unit to just to give him a speed bump. And so that'll give him a decision of if he hits him and when he kills him, he either stays there to reform and takes my Mangler Squig, or he overruns and pops it. Either way, I'm fine. Although I'd rather have him going through everything. I'll still take the 3d6 if that's what he wants. I take my other Mangler Squig and I do the same exact thing to his other unit here. Since his Saber Tusk is way out on the other flank, I don't have to worry about him stepping on it. And I take my Chariot, and it was either going to take the charge from these Mournfags or it charged them. So I don't waste any time, since a Chariot is pretty useless without impact hits. So I just go ahead and, hey, I throw my Chariot in there and hope to roll a 6 on my impact hits. In the shooting phase, I fire both my Doom Divers at this Saber Tusk, and I do manage to take it off the board, so my Doom Diver on the far right will live another turn. In the combat here, I do one impact wound to him, and he does 3 in return. I lose the combat, but I do stick around. And over here, my Trolls manage to take out the 2 Mournfang, the 2 Saber Tusk, but at a price. There's 6 attacks needing 3s to hit and 4s to wound, and I get a 4-up regen. He still manages to do 3 wounds and take a whole Troll out, which I wasn't too happy about, but I did vanquish him, so I reformed to face the middle, just so I'll be able to charge this Iron Guts no matter what they do. So in Ogre's turn 2, he takes his Mournfang and he decides to chase the tails of my Wolves. He takes his Iron Guts and promptly charges into my Wolf Riders in the front there. And he takes his Bull unit with his Slaughtermaster and he steps on my Mangler Squig and prays that I don't roll well. But I rolled disgusting, and I managed to do 12 wounds to this unit and take 4 Ogres right off the top. So, yeah, that's not good for him. That unit was a force to be reckoned with, and now it is a force to be stomped on. However, he does manage to get Spine Marrow up in the magic phase, so they are stubborn. So no matter how much damage I do to him, I'm going to have to kill him to a man if I expect him to go anywhere. In his shooting phase, he completely obliterates my Wolf Riders, and his Mournfang promptly slap off my Chariot, and he reforms to face my Black Orcs. Now, this might look a little bit funny here, but his Iron Guts promptly destroyed the Wolf Riders, and he overruns and he rolls Boxcars. So where there was 10 inches between me and the Wolf Riders, he just... Oh, yeah. I was not expecting this. Ogre's turn 2, and he's already all the way across the board into my General's unit with his Iron Gut Death Star. So I don't even get a chance to charge it, redirect it, or try and pin it, anything. He just goes straight into my General's unit with his Gut Star. So that was disgusting. However, he did overrun over the Mangler Squig, so the Mangler Squig went pop. And I rolled disgusting again, and I did 12 wounds again. So I strip off a whole entire 4 Iron Guts. Now this unit still is beastly, but with 4 Iron Guts off the top, it's not looking nearly as bad as it did before, but it's still that bad. My turn 2, I take my Black Orcs and I charge his Ogres here with his Slaughtermaster, as if there was anything else to do with this unit. And Mr. John Walsh, who last turn endured another round of lead belcher shooting, but he managed to shrug off all of them with his 4+ ward, which was pretty amazing. I was 100% sure he was doomed, but no. He gets a second chance at life, and he's going into some lead belchers. Now, my Trolls, that whopping 12-inch overrun took the Ogres here, the Iron Guts, out of my front arc, so I had to take this turn to reform my Trolls. Where I was expecting to get the charge in the front from my Orcs and in the side from my Trolls, now I don't get the charge at all, and I have to reform my Trolls and wait a turn to get them in there. My Doom Diver does manage to go and peel off the last 2 wounds on that Mournfang there, so that's good. 1 Mournfang down, 1 to go. And Mr. John Walsh in combat goes. His Cave Squig goes first of all things, and does a wound or 2. The Ogres go next, and they don't even scratch Mr. John Walsh, and he goes and finishes off a complete Ogre. So I win the combat by 4, and he flees, and I catch him, and Mr. John Walsh has had a startling start to this game. In the combat over here, we fight simultaneous because I decided to go for additional hand weapons. And just because I want the extra attacks, I'm strength 5 in the first round of combat, so I figure that's enough to take out these, at least I'll put them on, all they'll have is a parry save against me. So I take out 10 wounds off of him. He goes, and he takes off 8 wounds of Black Orcs. Now, I've never done the math on this, but I think 8's a bit steep. He rolled pretty well, and that hurt a lot. I was not expecting, because he needs 4s to hit and 4s to wound. And, yeah, 8 Black Orcs, done. Now, I do win the combat, but he's got Spine Marrow up, so he sticks around. In the combat here, he issues a challenge with his Tyrant, and I am no way going to take that with my Lord yet. I need Stubborn to stick around as much as possible. So he goes, and he rolls. He only gets 2 hits with his Tyrant, and he rolls 2 wounds, but I managed to parry save 1. So he only does 1 wound on my champion, which is enough to kill him, but it's only 1 combat res he gets. He does his impact hits, too, and he gets D3, and he just does that whole front row. Right there, 4, 5, 6, 7 wounds was all from like from his impact hits. So I was not expecting to win this combat. But he is great initiative, great weapons. So I do get to go first, and I think I had like 24 attacks or something like that, and I hit with 19 of them. It was something ridiculous, and I wounded with like 15. And I do 15 wounds off the top to him. Because remember, this unit is strength 5 in the first round of combat. And I do have the Razor standard, so it is armor piercing. So he's -3 to his armor. So I do 15 wounds with these Orcs, which was pretty amazing. I needed 3s to hit, because I'm weapon skill 4 with big guns. And I needed, I think it was 4 3s to wound, because I'm strength 5 first round of combat. Yeah, so that was pretty impressive. So I take out 15 of his Ogres. 15 wounds of his Ogres, and then he attacks me, and he does 13 wounds back. Now remember, his BSB is in that unit as well, so that's some extra punch. So I did manage to lose this combat, but due to his charge and his BSB, I only managed to win this combat by 1. So he sticks around. Ogres turn 3, takes his Mournfang, and he tries to assist his Slaughtermaster here, and he charges him in. His disgusting, frenzied, evil, cankerous being moves on. I forget what they call these things, but yeah. He moves on here to try and, he's angled it so he can go into the rear of my Orc unit, or he can go into my Goblin bunker here and try and take that out. In the magic phase, he gets Bullgorger and Spine Marrow up. I let the Bullgorger go because +1 strength isn't a big deal. He's already strength 6. He's still wounding me on 2s either way. He's still getting rid of my armor. I'll still get my parry. So I really don't care about +1 strength. And then he gets Spine Marrow off. I let that go because I'm just trying to stop Troll Guts, which he tries to bubble out. And I do manage to stop that. So his lead belchers open up on the rear end of my trolls, and he shoots 2 wounds up the trolls of the butt of that troll on the end there. In the combat over here, he goes again with his Mournfang and his unit there, and he still takes off 8 more wounds of my Black Orcs. So that's 16 dead Black Orcs in 2 rounds of combat here. That's a lot of pain. But I do manage to put a wound on the Mournfang, a wound on his Slaughtermaster, and 6 wounds on the unit. I end up winning this combat, but it's not by enough, and he makes his roll, and he sticks around. But not his Mournfang. He actually runs away. In the combat here, his Ogre Tyrant challenges, and I have to accept with my Black Orc General because I need Stubborn to stick around. So he does 2 wounds to me in the challenge, which is not good. That puts my Black Orc on 1 wound. And I do 2 wounds to him. I roll pretty well, and he doesn't make his 5-up ward saves or anything like that. But the rest of the combat, I do 9 wounds to him. I roll pretty well again. This time I'm only strength 4 armor piercing, so he still gets no armor save against me. And he rolls pretty poorly, and he gets 6 wounds on me. Now, I win this combat, but he does manage to stick once again. Now, what's huge about this picture right here is the challenge. And since I accepted with my Lord, I had to slide my Lord all the way down to meet his. And if you can see, if you can't tell from this picture, my Lord is no longer 12 inches from my trolls. So my BSB, you can also see in this picture, is in the Goblin unit. He is just barely within 12 inches of my trolls. So I'm going to be on a rerollable leadership 4. And so my turn 3. Mr. John Walsh turns around because of the glorious random movement rule, and I roll like a 14 or something ridiculous, and he actually charges into the Slaughtermaster here. I was going to go in the Mournfang to try and pick up those points, but I realized the Mournfang has a pretty good shot of killing what's left of Mr. John Walsh, so I decided to opt to help out here. So I managed to pass. I failed my first roll on my leadership 4 rerollable, and I made the second one. As you can see, the sun is setting, and they don't have blinds in the store here, so the pictures get a little weird with the lighting here. And you can see the Gorger here and that mysterious, the ominous shadow he casts over the Orc unit. A little bit of foreshadowing, no pun intended. So yeah, the trolls go into the unit there. Now in my magic phase, I try and go for poison attacks. He dispels it. So I take the rest of my 6 dice and I irresistibly cast Here We Go. I think rerolls is the make and break for this turn. So I get it off. I roll a 6 for my miscast and I do the small template. I take out 3 of my Night Goblins. I put a wound on my Shaman and I roll for the distance. I'm 6 inches away, and what do? I roll a 5. So that miscast means absolutely nothing. Now, the unit was within 5 inches, but in this turn I did move it back an inch. As you can tell, it got me out of the front arc of the Gorger here. So he can't charge my bunker, which is awesome. So he has no choice to go into my Orc unit, which keeps my Shaman and all these points safe. But unfortunately, it means that this spell did absolutely nothing this turn. So once again, my magic phase was a complete and total wash. My Doom Diver tries to open up on that Mournfang, and he blows himself up. Haha, hooray. But my other Doom Diver opens up and manages to pick off that last Mournfang. So in the combat here, the Giant Cave Squig goes first. He hits 3 times, and he wounds 3 times, and he manages to do all the wounds necessary to finish off that Slaughtermaster. So Mr. John Walsh picks up a Slaughtermaster. And I reform Mr. John Walsh and my Black Orcs. I give myself some ranks because Horde isn't going to do me any good anymore. In the combat in the middle here, in the challenge, I managed to do 1 wound to his Tyrant. And he manages to do a couple wounds to me, but I deflect them all with my 4+ ward. That's probably like the 7th 4+ ward save I've made. And I go before his unit, so I take off the rest of his Iron Guts with my Orcs. And he does 2 wounds to me with his BSB. And then my Trolls go, and I don't manage to kill his BSB. So I win, but he sticks around again. His turn 4, he brings in his other Gorger, doing the same thing, trying to keep my get my Wizard and have an option to go into the unit here to help out. He takes his Gorger and he goes into the rear of my Orcs. Big guns here. However, in the combat, he goes... Actually, no, I go first with the Black Orc. I think we go at the same time, Simon. I think we're both initiative 3 or 4, or I'm 4 and he's 3. Either way, he doesn't manage to kill my general here, but I do manage to strip him of his last 2 wounds with my Black Orc general. And he decides to call the game here because all he has left is a BSB who's inundated with troops, and he has 2 Gorgers and 4 Lead Belchers. So he called it, he capitulated here. And now, technically, I think the Ogre Tyrant here is a lot more scary than my Black Orc War Boss. It was that 4+ ward save that made the difference here, because I think his 5 attacks, you know, he's hitting me on 4s, he's wounding me on 2s, and all I get is a 4+ ward. And I need 3s to hit him, which goes to 2s because they're sort of striking, but then I still need 4s to wound him, and he's got a 6 up armor, and he's got 5 up ward. But I've only got 4 attacks. So I like the math on the Tyrant beating the Black Orc War Boss, but I just couldn't really fail. After that first round of combat, I didn't fail a single 4 up ward. And he did 2 or 3 wounds to me every turn. So quite fortunate there. I thought my Black Orc war boss was doomed, but I guess I shouldn't underestimate a 4+ ward. So some notes. My magic phase, absolutely useless. I didn't cast a single spell all game. Now, it was great to have the level 4 for dispelling, but his magic didn't really concern me too much. The only thing I was worried about was his troll guts, and so I just saved everything. I used a scroll on it one turn. Bull Gorger, I don't care if he's +1 strength and Iron Guts. The only other unit you could give it to is the Mornfang, and who really cares there? And his Bull unit would have been really good, but he never put it on that unit. I mean, Strength 5 Bulls is kind of what you want. Kind of makes him as good as a Troll, so, without the regen. But, Strength 5 is a huge difference on Bulls, but he didn't do that. The challenges. The stupid challenge, stupidity in challenges. Now, it's something I was aware of, but you always lose track, and I really didn't have a choice when I accepted the challenge. I had to do it because I wanted to keep the stubborn. I suppose I could have done without it, but stubborn is it's such a good tool to have. All I needed was one, beast of a combat phase, with stomps or whatever it is, and I could have been in trouble. But it took my general out of the line, the range of my trolls, and trolls need to be babysat like crazy. So I was fortunate I had a reroll barely, and I was fortunate to make it, but that could have really hindered the usefulness of my trolls. So that's something I myself, and I think everybody, who's not aware of when they have trolls and stupid things, is challenges are a sneaky way to drag your general or your BSB out of range of the unit that needs it. So that was really surprising to me, and when I lost that leadership 9 for my Blackrock guy, I really my forehead hit my palm of my hand. So yeah, I was fortunate there. And at least my next one, ward saves. I hate paying the points for 4+ ward save. It is so expensive, but it can if you can roll 4+s like a boss, you will win the game every time. And my Black Orc war boss has I don't know what it is with him with a 4+ ward, but he has made more than any other character or unit or any of the saves I've ever had. So as much as I hate paying the points, this is one of those games where I just, a 4+ ward, you have to have it, especially on a stubborn. Anything that's stubborn, their survivability is generally the survivability unit they're in. So, yeah, 4+ wards for the win. And even on Mr. John Walsh there, he has that 4+ ward, and the same thing. He's just made him like a boss. I couldn't stop making 4+ wards. It was kind of annoying because sometimes you get accused of loaded dice when you keep making 4+ wards because it's so frustrating for an opponent. Orc Big Guns, I love Savages. I hate Frenzy. I would love to have a horde of Savage Orcs. I just hate Frenzy. I really do. It's such a liability. But the devastation of that unit is immense. But I've been having a massive amount of success with these Orc Big Guns with the Razor Standard. It's not nearly as many attacks, and a 6-up ward, 6-up parry, it's comparable, but I do have a 5-up armor over him, and with a general with a stubborn in there is a beast of a unit, and I love that -3 to armor in that first turn of combat with my strength 5. So yeah, I really, really like the unit. I really like it doesn't have frenzy in it, and it can still, it's got some survivability, and it can still do a little bit of a punch. Definitely a grind unit with a Lord in there, so I'm loving that unit. The Mangler Squigs, really, really great unit. Yeah, without shooting on the board, his lead belches kind of, he opted for, if he's fired at turn 1, I had the Mangler Squig, so it would have been in cover, plus that -1 hit. He would need 6 to hit it. So we went for Mr. John Walsh, which wasn't a bad idea, but the Mangler Squig should always be a priority, and you can see the devastation. Granted, he was hoping I roll it low on, 3d6 strength 6 hits, but I didn't, and you can't. If you're going to let me roll dice on strength 6 hits, that's not a good thing, because like I said, yeah, I could have rolled 4 or 5 hits, and then that probably would have resulted in 6 wounds or 5 wounds, and that wouldn't have done too much, but the potential to, take out 4 ogres is ridiculous, and it cost him, the game. Which leads to my next one, Meow Mix. That's exactly what those kitties turned into. They got pulverized into Meow Mix, and, that's the one thing I can take from this game, and I explained to him after the game, you gotta try and step on those manglers at all costs. And, I would have tried to doom diver him off the board with everything I had, even if I had a brain burster him, I don't care. I would have tried to keep my manglers alive, but he has to try with everything to kill those mangler swigs because you can't step on those things. It's not worth it. Not unless you got a fast cav or something stupid or the kitty cats there, but you can't step on them with your main combat blocks, and that's a lesson well learned for him this game. So massive victory to the Orcs. Thank you very much, and goodbye.